computer. Okay, hello and welcome. I am here with Coach Clete Adelman, who was the ongoing staple of the athletic department for many, many decades here at MiraCosta. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about one of his favorite teams, the 1996 conference championship team. And in a week or so, we're actually going to be interviewing one of those young men, or now grown man, Jesus Galindo. But I think right now we thought it would be a good time to tell a few stories and a little bit about it. Coach, welcome. And let me see if I share. Can you see this picture?
Yes.
So this is the team we're talking about, 1996, 27-4 overall record, Pacific Coast Conference champions. What comes to mind when you see this picture or think about this team?
Well, we were very well-rounded. We were big. We went 6'9", 6'8", 6'7", 6'7". We were not that quick, but we were skilled. We could pass it, we could shoot it, and we had great chemistry. We had great leadership with Ryan Demergen and Jesus, and just backup people at every position. And looking at those positions, looking at those people, it's interesting what they've gone on and done. The one who probably played the least amount of time was Nick Barnes. He's in the front row, third from the left. And he went on to Embry-Riddle, became a big-time pilot, and he's had a great career as an airline pilot. And there's a foreign exchange kid there named Ozan Korkut, who has the third largest advertising agency in Turkey. And he's called me a couple of times and wants me to come over and visit, says he'll find me a golf course. I said, hey, I'm not going any place in the Near East that people get shot over there. I'm not doing that. And then Murray Sly's right down the front in the white sweater. Murray's from Australia, and he had a really, really interesting career with us. He lost his mother his freshman year. She was killed in a tragic accident, and we had to do some things to get him back, and he was a huge part of that team. He came over here from their high school, and averaged 31 points a game. And the first day he was here, I worked him out, and he was not in very good shape. And he was really trying hard, and I was killing him. And he was backpedaling, and he turned his ankle. He could barely walk for the first week he was here, and that was his introduction. And he never was a big scorer for us, but he could defend. We always put him on the other team's best shooter, and he did a great job with that. So there's a lot of guys there that brings back memories. You know, I don't know what Jesus is doing up in that line with those four big studs. Good Lord. You know.
Yeah.
I think Jesus always thought he was that big. You know.
Yeah.
Big heart. So.
Well, I remember you said that you used to run him to the post because he was such a good passer. So maybe he got confused and thought the back line was for all the post players.
Well, he just felt he could play any position he wanted.
Yeah,
you know, that's the way he was. You know, he used to wear his little white beater T-shirts into the weight room, trying to flex his pecs, you know, show he had muscles or something. But we were lucky to get Jesus. I met him at Snow Valley Basketball School. And his high school coach was the former assistant to Charlie Sands at West LA.
Oh.
And his name was Eddie Mascari. And Eddie was going to send Jesus to Charlie. But Charlie was big time, old school. He would not take a kid out of his district, would not. Even if the kid had the money to pay for an apartment, he didn't want them in an apartment. He didn't want to be worrying about the things that go on, you know, when kids are out on their own and things like that. So he wouldn't take a kid out of district. So we got lucky, and I said, I'll take him, because I saw him play at Snow Valley. And, you know, he wasn't exceptionally quick. He was a very good standstill shooter, but his personality just attracted you. He's always smiling. All the guys loved him. You know, it was a very positive kid. And so he came down to us and we got him. And ironically, the first, let's see, his freshman year, we were supposed to play West LA. And I think our first game of the year. And it was going to be Charlie's new gym at West LA. And because construction being like it is, they didn't get the gym done when our season opened. So we went up there and we played them in the girls' gym at Westchester High School.
Oh, wow.
Saturday afternoon. It was nobody there, a dilapidated little old gym. And two, hard-nosed teams. Jesus made 6 free throws in the last 2 minutes to win it by 3. And I looked at Charlie, I said, it's just bad recruiting on your part and good recruiting on my part. You wouldn't take him and I got him,
That's good.
So that was our introduction to Jesus coming to play for us. And the next year, this team, I agreed to go to Charlie's gym again. And I said, what kind of an idiot am I? Now I'm going to go open your gym, and now it's ready. And they had all kinds of people there and had introductions, local dignitaries and everything. And we beat them by 40. We just pounded them. I think we had 7 different guys hit threes. And Charlie ran up to me and he grabbed my hand, and he was a very good friend of mine. He goes, you're going to have a lot of fun with that team if you get some leadership. And I said, you mean me? He goes, of course I mean you.
Yeah.
And then his wife came running up to me, and I'm still very close with her. It's his widow now. And she said, you're not very nice beating us like that in our own gym. I said, I tried to hold off. I said, most of those kids are left-handed. They were shooting right-handed tonight. She slapped me. She didn't think that was funny, but actually she did. But that was, we played Charlie twice with Jesus's team and beat him by 3 one time and beat the holy hell out of him the second time.
So you brought up leadership, and Jesus probably is natural leader in the point guard position, but looking at this group, who else stood out or rose to the top as someone that was either a verbal or otherwise had some sort of leadership role, you think?
Well, Ryan Demergen, because he was local, and probably because, how do I put this? He was the most verbal guy of the group. He was a lot like me, and he's very sarcastic, great sense of humor, but the kids all liked him, and that's what a leader is. Everybody on the team wants that leader to like them. And I recall that second year, they had a lot of stuff going on. I knew they were partying on the weekends together, but I didn't want to know what they were doing, as long as nobody got arrested, and I trusted them in their judgment. But I noticed halfway through the year that Ryan would be saying, he'd say, hey, Murray, $5 by the end of the week. Or he'd say, Big John, you owe me $3 by the end of the week. And I'm thinking, are they playing poker? Is Ryan sucking these guys money from them? What the heck's going on? And what I come to find out at the end of the year, that picture, which is taken over in the Hosp Grove over off of the freeway, off of Jefferson and Highway 78.
Yep.
Instead of having a normal team picture, Ryan wanted to do something nice. So he had this kind of a picture taken. He had it matted, he had it framed, and he had pictures made for our trainer, for our secretary, for me, and for the school, and the money he was getting was to pay for these pictures. And I thought he was, they were gambling or something, just, his leadership to do something different, to do something nice, and it was a very different group, Adam Vandervoort up there to the right of Big John, he wasn't going to play basketball anymore. He came all CIF in high school, and he had a scholarship offers, but he decided he didn't want to play. And he got into my health class, and I never said a word to him about basketball. I said, Adam, how you doing? What are you doing with your free time? Never said a word. And the next year he decided he wanted to play.
Wow.
And John had sat out a year. So all of a sudden we're 6'9", 6'7", Jana Afshari there was He was at Vanguard College for a year, went to Tri-City Christian, and these guys all come in at the same time. All of a sudden, we're pretty big and pretty skilled. Vandervoort was very skilled. So it was a combination of a lot of different people and coming in. Sonny Drago was, I always admired Sonny because he drove every day for 2 years from Ramona. I mean, how do you do that? That's at least an hour on the freeway each way. And he was a very good student, and he was a good player. The year after this, he was our leading scorer. And, you know, he was very, very disciplined and really a tough kid. He was a backup to Jesus when we needed a backup point guard. So,
yeah. When I look at the group, I mean, there's 14 guys in the picture, and all of them could play on just about every team that we've had here. It seems like there was just a ton of depth, and whether or not there was, your best five and then other guys that maybe didn't play as much, they all could play. So your practice must have been very competitive. And if guys had injuries, it seems like there was always another guy to step up. I'm looking at, like you mentioned, Sonny and Victor Michaels and Kwaku, who were all there the following year in 97. That was my redshirt year. But I mean, even like Pat Poland was an athlete. Steve Trout was a real tough player. Leroy, who was very athletic. And, it's almost like you could pick, were you going to go big? Were you going to get quicker and press a little more? And depending on injuries, you probably, had plenty of options.
Yep. And some of those guys probably didn't play as much as they wanted. Obviously, they didn't play as much as they wanted. Leroy Parham was a great example because he's very, very talented, but he was more of a street type player, and he was athletic. And you get an open court game where people are running up and down, and he could really be good. But unfortunately for him, playing for me, it's not that way. We ran some sophisticated stuff, and he would have trouble with some of it. Not that wasn't intelligent. It's just that his concentration didn't last long after he caught the ball.
Right.
When he caught the ball, he was going to do something with it. Most of the time, it's going to be something good. But it was. And Steve Trout's an amazing kid. I just saw his father the other day. Steve was a post guy at El Camino High School. He never shot the ball outside of 3 feet his whole high school career, unless he shot a free throw. And he came out and played for us, and hard worker, pretty good defender. But what I remember about him, and I just told his parents this story the other day, we were at a funeral together. And I said, I remember Steve at Antelope Valley, and we played 3 of the top 5 ranked teams in the state in that tournament. We played Santa Monica, we played Mount San Jacinto, and we played Antelope Valley in the championship. And in the Santa Monica game, they were ranked number 2. They were good, but Steve hit a 3 with 2.5 minutes to go to put us up 6. And for him to have the guts to take that 3 and I'm thinking, what the heck was he in the game for? That late. He wasn't one of our free throw shooters or whatever the situation was. He was in the game, and he drilled a 3 from the left wing to put us up 6. And that was a huge play. And he was so excited and had a lot of confidence in himself to do that, so it was, and we had a lot of guys do that kind of stuff. Murray made 2 free throws with no time on the clock to beat Cerritos. He got fouled at the buzzer, and he did that. And we used to put Jesus in, like you said, in the zone. We'd post him up and get people outside who could shoot the ball. And he did that his freshman year and his sophomore year. So, and Ozan was really talented, but he was a European player. He wanted just to get it and go and shoot threes and drive it. But so you had to pick your spots to put him in. But he was really talented. I never worried about him doing something good with the ball because he had that kind of skill. So,
yeah. So you mentioned Antelope Valley tournament. You won that tournament this year, didn't you?
Yeah, we won that tournament. Yep.
Which is one of the only couple times I think we had been going to that tournament. Well, back then, but then we went for another at least 2 decades and still going. 96, yeah. And so and it's always very competitive. So
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's that was a heck of a team. In fact, one of the best compliments I ever received was my wife better answer. Okay. There's a guy named Keith Hughes who coached at Kings River, and he was the epitome of an old school coach. When I was on my sabbatical in 1989, I went up and watched his team practice for 2 days. They couldn't go to the bathroom without asking permission. I mean, they had weightlifting at 7 a.m. and they all lived in a dorm up there.
yeah.
They all had their classes from 8 to 12. They met for lunch. Then they had study hall from 1 to 3, and then they go to practice.
Wow.
And they were really, really disciplined. And they're good teams all the time. And our team, this team that we're looking at, the 96 team, in that tournament, he came up to me after we beat Santa Monica, and he says, and he specifically pointed to Jesus and to Ryan. He goes, how do you get those guys to dive on the floor like they do? How do you get, and he pointed to Ryan, how do you get 24 to take knockdowns like he does? He's got no fear of anybody. And I said, I just tell him I won't feed him if they don't do that. He was serious though. And
Yeah.
when we beat San Jacinto in the semifinals, his team, he had them all sitting in the bleachers behind our bench. He said, you watch those guys. You watch what a team acts like when they're in the game, when the game's going on. Because we were good on the bench. Guys were always in it. Kwaku was great at that. He was a great cheerleader on the bench, and Big John was when he wasn't in the game. He and Kwaku were the verbal guys, and it was a fun group, But to have another coach come and watch your team, how they behave, not so much just how they play. That was an extension of how they behave. That was very complimentary to me. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, an ultimate compliment almost. Cool. Well, let's jump ahead. So this team had a great preseason, gets to conference. And what was the conference like? Who were the other top teams? Were there any big games that stood out, or did you just run through the conference this year?
No. Southwestern was really good. Southwestern was the other team that was good, and he had 3 guys from New York, and they were, and I'll say they were a bunch of hoodlums, big time. And we beat them at our gym for the championship, and a riot broke out. They had a kid, and I won't even mention his name, but he was from New York, really a good player, 6'5", big time jumper, but he'd MF everybody. Our kid Afshari had tattoos all over his arms and shaved head. And John was a Christian guy, but he looked like a hoodlum. And this guy from Southwestern told Afshari he had a gun in his locker and he was going to shoot him after the game.
Wow.
That kind of stuff was going on. And I knew what was going to happen. And I told the kids, got Ryan as our captain, I said, if anything gets out of line, get the guys and get them off the court. If this game is close, you don't want to shake anybody's hand. You want to just get out of there. And we beat them, and they had a shot to tie it at the buzzer and missed it. And we're all jumping up and down. And one of their players took the ball and threw it at Jesus, hit him right in the back.
Oh, wow.
Jesus turns around, he goes, puts his hands up like, what's the deal? What's wrong with you? And this other kid took off his jersey and wanted to fight. He just pulled it, and he was a little guy too, little left-handed guy. And the 6'5" guy from New York, he was trying to fight everybody with our jersey. And I went running over when the ball was thrown at Jesus and got in front of that guy. And then their coach came running over, and he started cussing me out. He was saying, I can't believe you have that guy in your team. I said, what are you talking about? But, they acted like that because their coach was that kind of a guy too. So we start getting out of the gym. I'm pushing them all back, and Ryan's got them all. We're going out the door, and the 6'5" kid goes over by the bench, our bench, and my daughter is there keeping score, and Carol is there, our trainer, and Donna, our equipment lady, and they just want to run. You can see how frightened they were because he was screaming and yelling and MF and everybody. He grabs a chair from our bench, and I had a few words with their coach, and he said something to me, and I just waved at him, and I was walking out, and the kid had the chair, and he's about ready to hit me over the head with it as I was walking out.
Wow.
My back was to him. And their assistant coach, who was a friend of mine, grabbed him before he could hit me, ended up throwing him over his shoulder and carrying him out of the gym.
Wow.
It was the wildest scene you've ever seen. Not what you want in a basketball game at all.
And that was
really talented. They were good.
And that was the championship game.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, wow.
It was. Yes.
Emotions were running high.
It was a heck of a game. You know, they were a good team.
Yeah.
They were big and they were quick, and the little left-handed kid was very crafty. He could shoot it. And they had another guy, I think he's a coach now, Marty. Can't remember Marty's name. He was from Patrick Henry, but he was a good guy. You know, he played really hard. But the guy from New York was a hoodlum. I'm sure he got arrested someplace down the line. I know he never went to college after Southwestern.
Got it.
But
So
that was on film too.
Yeah. So after conference postseason started, and we had a pretty good run, right?
Yeah, we lost in the we pounded two teams. I remember that we beat I can't remember. I think we beat Canyons. I'm not sure who we beat. But we lost to Saddleback after we'd already beat him twice. And they had an NBA guy in their team that was really a good player. And it was at our gym too. But Ryan fouled out with 4 or 5 minutes to go. We got some really bad calls. Jesus took a charge on the guy's name. I think his name was Anthony Carter, something like that.
Yep.
He played in the NBA for 8-9 years. He's a good player. But Jesus took a knockdown on him with 2 minutes to go. It was a charge all the way, and it would have been his 5th foul. He ended up making 2 free throws at the end of the game to put them ahead. And then we had the ball with 6 seconds to go, and they were only going to pick up at half court. And I thought, well, this is great, because I'm just going to get the ball to Ozon and let him go and put shooters in the corners. But I made a mistake, and I had a guy take the ball out of bounds. It probably shouldn't have been taken out of bounds, but he had been taken out of bounds for us all year. He's one of the big guys.
Yeah.
And I just said, get the ball to Ozon. Well, he blanked out, and Ozon came running back, and he looked at Ozon, and then he looked down the court, and he threw a pass trying to throw to half court, and Carter intercepted it, and we had to foul him, and he made 2 free throws, and that was the game.
Yeah.
If we'd have got it to Ozon, I think we'd have won, because Ozon was a very good free throw shooter, and he would have gone by. They wouldn't have stopped him one-on-one. He'd have gone by and created something. We might have missed a shot, but he'd have got us a shot. It wouldn't have been a situation. So that was one of my. I feel like I kind of blew that, making sure that I should have had somebody in the game throwing the ball to Ozon to make sure they knew who he was. Maybe the guy who threw it in bounds didn't recognize his own teammate. I don't know, but Ryan was out of the game, and our leading scorer that year was Adam Vandervoort, and Adam had his worst game. He had 7 points, and he fouled out.
Got it.
So we had beat them twice already, like I said, and so we were pretty confident we were going to beat them again, but didn't happen. So
yeah, tough finish to a great year. And this was your best year record-wise?
Yeah, that was. I think what was I don't remember, what was the team you were on? What was that record?
Yeah, we weren't 27-4. I think we were 24-7.
Oh yeah, we got beat 7 times with that group. That's bad. Bad coaching, man. Jeez.
Twice by Cerritos.
Oh, Cerritos. Jeez.
Well, let's finish up with this 96 team. What are some of the best memories that you have, either on the court or off the court, that you just kind of something warm for our hearts before we sign off?
Well, they were all good kids, and as you well know, my biggest deal was to be in the gym with kids that I enjoyed coaching. And I would hate to think about going in the gym with a bunch of jerks, you know, and try to just make do to win, you know. But those were all good kids. And a lot of them I haven't seen, but a lot of them I keep in touch with. Jesus and I are very close. His family visits me when we come down here. I know his daughter as well. His wife is just a jewel. She's a nurse. And I keep in touch with Ryan. And every now and then my wife keeps in touch with Big John on Facebook.
Yeah.
You know, he's coaching, which I think is cool. And when one of the neatest things that Jesus and Ryan came to my Hall of Fame induction, and I had a dinner the night before for all the people who have made the effort to get up there, and just the people to meet each other, you know, who were supporting me. And when I went in that Chinese restaurant that night, lady goes, "Are you Coach Adelman?" I said, "There's a man waiting for you in the bar." I said, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, a real big guy." I go walking in, and it's John Williams. I mean, and he is a big man. I mean, he is huge. He's 300 and something pounds. And he had heard about it, found out where the dinner was, and was sitting at the bar waiting for me. He got up, gave me the biggest hug.
That's
It
great.
just made me feel so good that, you know, that he would go that much out of his way. Because I used to take him home, you know, when he played for me, and he had to redshirt a year because he had trouble with grades, and talk to his mother a lot. You know, and it just, that's what made my job so fun, when you see those kind of people, you know, yourself included, that do well after they've played with us and felt like that was a big part of their development, you know.
Yeah.
And Jesus was the same way. Jesus's family is unbelievable. You know, they were field workers. And when he came to MiraCosta, he had an older sister who was in college. She stopped going to school to pay for him to be at MiraCosta.
Wow.
I mean, they're that kind of a family. And I like to feel that he found that same thing with our basketball team, you know, because he was at our house all the time. Anybody out of district, they ate at our house every Sunday. And he was really close to my kids, and he tutored my daughter in Spanish. And, you know,
Yeah.
the familial aspect, I think, is the best thing I remember about those good teams. They were close.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is great, Coach. And we'll have to,
Thanks, Pat. Appreciate you doing this.
no, and we'll have to do it. We'll do it for,